Well, good afternoon, everybody from Scotland. Welcome back to a second day at my main desk. So this is my computer desk and where I tend to do all my editing, video work and everything else. But often than not, I come back here to do some sketching. And as you can see, we've got my sketchbook back and the pumpkin painting that we did yesterday. And to clarify, we've done a number of pumpkins. So we've got the two that are in the stream thumbnail and also another one here, which we did previously and is now a pastel painting video which went up this morning. So I'm going to flip this round and we're going to start on the other side. Tony is celebrating in the chat. Hello Tony and welcome. I hope you've got your cup of tea or coffee out there ready. So we've got a nice autumnal image going on. I can't show you that, or can I show you that? That's going to be an interesting challenge. Let me have a see if I can find a way to show you what it looks like. Right, hopefully you guys can see that. That is the autumnal image that we're going to be painting today. So it's a top-down version rather than a side one, but I just like the shadows and the textures in this one. And there's plenty of different textures in the pumpkins as well. So that's what we're going to be working on. Obviously, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to put it in the chat. I am monitoring both chats at the moment just to keep an eye on it in case any of you are floating around with questions, just generally about what I'm doing or anything else that you have on your mind. It's just regular tea before somebody asks, because I've had that before. I usually drink mint tea at this time of day though, but not this afternoon. I've been doing house viewings for our house because we're selling our house this morning, so it's a tidy house, so that's why I'm limiting things to my desk so that I don't make a mess, because otherwise the husband will kill me. Right, let's get started mapping out these pumpkins. So they're all quite neutral colours. There's no bright oranges today. So we're going to go for a really nice kind of neutral cream. I have unfortunately got my water cup right next to my cup of tea, so you can't see it. So the tea and water cup is just off screen. So I probably will put the paintbrush in there at some point by accident. Wouldn't be the first time. Right, so let's just map out where we want these pumpkins. And as usual, it kind of comes in, kind of curves round, comes in, and then comes back out, these little valleys. And that's just the different segments of the pumpkin. I do want this to kind of go off the page slightly, just to expand on the size of the page by making people think that there is more beyond the limits and boundaries of the page than there actually is. And it's just a general useful technique just to kind of get people interested, and thinking more about what's off the page as well as what's on the page. Now I've got to be careful with this pumpkin because it's quite a light colour, but it's very similar in colour to the wood, so I'm going to have to be really careful about that. Just washing this down. So this is the Himi gouache sitting here next to me, and I'm using quite a lot of water for the base colours, and that just helps get it soaked into the paper so that I don't have too many problems layering over the top, because obviously this type of gouache is water based, So to answer your question, Tony, it is the Himi gouache, and it is a water-based gouache, not an acrylic, so it reactivates very easily with water, which can be a blessing or it can be an absolute pain in the butt, depending on how you like to work. Now, I like to work with my palette relatively dry, so you can see it is quite, all the paints look quite cracked, and they are dry, and like watercolor, you just reactivate it with water, which is really good. These are great for sketching. This is the 48 way. I really want the bigger set because it'll give you more colors. There are 2 colors in this set if I bring it over. So these 2 colors here were not in the set. I've added those. The kind of weird green color here, that's the actual color that was in this. I've now put a darker blue-green with a little bit of yellow in it, mixed up from Arteza gouache, and it's just because I didn't like the really almost fluorescent greens that they had in here, like these, but on the blue tone, and it just was too much, which wasn't useful on a palette like this, so I've swapped those out. Fairly easy. Once the paint's dry, you can actually pop the plastic palettes and just scrape the thing out with a palette knife. They come out really easily. So we're just gonna bring in the orange one here. They sit quite close together. So this colour is a little darker than the actual colour, but we will be paling that out, so I'm not too fussed about it for the time being. And like I said, I want this to come off the page, and I'm just rearranging the arrangement in this a little bit. The pumpkins are all relatively same size, so I've brought the orange one in slightly because otherwise they were almost half and half in line with this one, so the orange one was slightly more over and the green and white one slightly more this way. So I've just rearranged it ever so slightly because I want to really make sure that I'm getting enough character in. It's great having a top-down painting like this to do. It gives you a different aspect, and it's really good to be able to try and practice a couple of different variations. I'd love to do a landscape from top down. I have a drone, but there's so many regulations here about where you can fly them and public spaces, and of course the one place I would love to do that is along the coast, because I think a top-down version coastal painting would look absolutely spectacular with the different hues and tones that you get in the sea, and then all the kind of where the rocks start forming, and you see plenty of images like that of the beaches, but I've never painted one. I just think, do you know what, I really want to do that. So not a life goal as such, but certainly something I would like to do. Right, we have got this cup. I'm just thinking a bit more about how we're going to do it. So I'm going to start with a light grey, do it in light grey, and then do white over the areas where it's properly white. And it's quite high up, so it's kind of in line with this one, but up slightly. So I am not very good with circles before anybody says anything. To be fair, if you've not been on my channel before, I am a sight impaired artist, so I am legally registered sight impaired. So in layman's terms, that would make me partially sighted, not blind. But it's not really that much different sometimes when you talk to people about it. So I have a number of tools that I use to help me paint, things like magnifiers and stuff, which is really great. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know I absolutely love to paint with really heavily textured surfaces, and that actually is a great help for me because it helps me to feel where I am on the surface as well as see it. And especially tricky when you're doing so much kind of landscape work and there's a lot of detail and it can get a bit funny. That's not quite the right shape, is it? I think I might amend that once I put the background colour on. That's the fun thing about this stuff, is it's actually quite easy to make amendments. I mean, it's no different to acrylics really, except for one thing, and that is obviously that it's reactivated by water. And this is where the handle comes out here. And this just gives the painting a slightly different direction. Careful there that it doesn't. I'll make sure I get the right angle on that. We'll just paint that all in. It almost looks, this stuff almost looks like it's white. It's not. Honestly, it's not. It is a light grey. That's another colour I actually added to this palette because it had 2 blocks of white, so I took a white out, and the Himi white is really translucent, so I swapped it out for the Winsor & Newton fine gouache, so it's gouache pigment but really finely ground, so there's more pigment in it, and the advantage of that is it makes it less transparent, which is what I was looking for. So I swapped the white out in this set for that one, and then swapped the other white that was next to it, because these come in pairs, for a light grey, so that I could have a bit more range in colour. Part of the reason I like working with these specifically is because I like having a nice range of colour where I don't have to mix, because honestly I don't always have time, I don't always have the space. Like here, the lid's great, the lid here is just for these, designed to be a palette for mixing colours, but honestly I'd rather not actually spend time mixing colours if I can get away with it. Okay, that's looking a little better. I can make adjustments on that with the white, with the background, with the actual coffee colour. And yeah, this is, so that's where said handle is there. For all that this is a nice image, the coffee cup is unbelievably boring. I almost wish I could read what it says on the side of the cup, but I can't. Right, let us get the background colour in. So again, it is a very similar colour to this, but it's just a little bit more kind of caramel colour. The nice thing about the Himi set here is that it has this one as well as the paler cream one, and as you can see when I put it down, it does not look like much difference, does it? So I'm going to leave an ever so slight gap around the pumpkin as I paint, and that'll just help me work out what's where. So the brush I'm using is a synthetic brush, used mostly for fine acrylic work and for gouache. I bought them fairly cheaply. I think it was £18 for the set, and I got 6 brushes. This is a medium can't remember because I've rubbed all the... I hate it when they print on the barrel because you rub it off. So unless you actually stamp it into the wood, that's useless. Another quick rant. But I believe this is one of the 6s. I have an 8, a 10, a 6, a 4, and 2 fine line ones. Right, let's get into where this cup is here. I think there's nice shadows on this one because the light is coming from this side going that way. So it's going to give us some really nice directional shadows to work with. I think what irritated me about the other one up here is that it's clearly a setup in a photo studio because the lights are from all directions and it washes it out. There's only an ever so slight shadow underneath them. And I really like to use shadows to help create direction, so it was a little annoying. So I might go back and do that one again, but this time with just paint it in with more directional lighting. As long as you've got a good sense of where the lighting is going, which bits are going to be lit and which bits are going to be in shadow, then usually you're fairly fine. What have I done here? Oh, that's the inside, that's the outside. Just trying to keep this in. This comes to here. That's a bit better. The paper in this handmade sketchbook is the Canson May 10s. Because I do a lot of pastel work, I like to try and have some handmade sketchbooks that are made with pastel paper so that I can do pastel sketching when I need to without really having to worry. Whilst pastel will stick to watercolor paper, it's a little tricky, and you don't want to have to get gesso out every time you want to use your sketchbook just because you've decided that today you're going to use pastels instead of watercolor or charcoal or anything else for that matter. So this sketchbook is made by hand by a friend. And he made it. It was his first book binding that he'd ever done, and he was really worried about it, but actually he's done a pretty good job. Right, we're just working really close to this cup now to kind of sort out what we're doing there, and I'm just bringing the shape in so it makes a bit more sense. So it's harder to see because they're both quite light colours. Oh, it's escaped onto the other page. And this kind of it kind of comes down more on a diagonal before it kind of cuts round. No, that's not really working either. Come on, girl, think about this a bit more. Why am I trying to paint a cup in such a weird angle? Well, that's a bit better. I don't want to spend all my time trying to rearrange the shape of a cup, but that'll do for the minute. When I go back over it with the white and the greys, I can expand on it, but it is looking a little better now. And I've just come back from the allotment this morning, so I did the house viewing, Then I went down to the allotment, and we've got a fairly large plot at our allotment, and we've been growing carrots, and every year the carrots come out looking like funny shaped monsters, and that's because the ground is fairly stony, and no matter how much we work on it, somehow or another there's always stones and the carrots never grow straight. But we usually keep them in the ground until we want to use one, because actually the ground is really good cold storage for carrots, especially as we are coming into a kind of frozen colder months. So if you don't know where I am specifically, I am at the start of the Highlands. There is a valley where I am, and that valley is basically, we're at the head of the valley, and if you come through by my village, then you are then heading officially into the Highlands. So we're at the start of the Highlands. So it does get really cold. The ground gets really cold really quickly. Right, let's put in a nice brown for the coffee. This is going to be quite a high contrast compared to everything else that's going on. That's better. Still can't get this into a circle. One day maybe. Could have cheated, could have used a roll of tape to make a circle, but you know, we won't. We don't do that here. We're all professionals. Oh, there's a question. Coffee or tea? I would say we've got a proper coffee machine in the kitchen, so we like to have a proper fresh coffee made from an espresso with ground coffee. So it is a proper pressurized coffee machine. We like to have one of those in the morning, Saturday, Sunday morning, when he's off as well, so that's our kind of weekend treat together. But for the rest of the time we just drink tea, him mostly just tea like this with milk, and me, I like tea in the morning, but as it comes into the afternoon usually it's chai or mint tea. I've got lemon, I've got various really nice teas from a company called Bird and Blend. I've got one called Hot Cross Bun, and it's a mixture of different fruits, currants, a little bit of black tea. In fact, is it black tea or I think it's rooibos, so it's a decaf black tea, and then what? Then spices, I suppose, and it does taste like hot cross buns. It's really weird, but very tasty. And it's not a type of tea you put milk in. You could do, but it's just generally not. Right, what are we looking for? We want to put a little bit, I want to start getting some shadows in on these pumpkins. So I'm just gonna bring up a little bit of this kind of mauve colour. I use it a lot for shadows. It's actually a really good colour for shadows. And I'm going to mix it in with some of the light grey. So it gives me a bit of a lighter colour. It'll still be darker than what we've got here. So this is where the stalk is, right in, it's just slightly off center, and then we've got all these shadows coming off, and the reason for that is the pumpkin sinks as it gets to the point where it's right. The middle sinks down with the weight as it becomes more hollow as it starts to prepare its seeds. So tend to find that the stalk is very much sunken. Now we've got shadowing at the top here. Just trying to work out how much I want to put in. So the light is on this side of the pumpkin. This is the bit where everything always looks a bit weird, because you start looking at this thinking, what on earth? But don't worry, it will kind of make sense. This is where I say, I hope. So this one's got quite a lot of segments actually, but some of them are very faint, so they're really hard to see. This one's a little bit lighter. It always goes dark first before it dries. That's because of the paper. As the paper sucks the moisture out, it darkens in colour, and then as the paper dries, it gets lighter again. It's a bit of a funny phenomenon of using this type of paper, but as long as you know that, you're not going to panic while painting. Just want this a little darker here. Now, where's this shadow going? It's coming down along that edge there. And then we've got another segment coming that way. This is where we start to get these curves in. And you'll see it always kind of does that as it comes in. Then we've got another one that comes down. And it's still fairly shadowy at the bottom of each one of these. It'll be slightly more shadowed by with these two pumpkins. Try and decide where the lines are that form each segment. The thing is with these is you need those segments to look, they're not equal. Pumpkin segments are never equal, but you do want them to look realistic and not forced. So actually having them squiggly and offset and not quite correct does make them more organic. Right. This is a lot more shadowy down here. So we want to bring this up. And the same here. There's more shadowy here. Same here. We bring that up. You can see I've got a curve here as it curves and it comes in and then curves back out. That's where those lines are. So if you imagine that as a valley where it hits the floor and before it comes up the other side, there's a road in that valley going right the way up the middle, and that's what these lines are. There's another one there. There's a bit more coming out on this side. I'm just trying to make sure I get that there. And this is where it gets really quite light up here on this top, so trying not to give it shadows essentially too much. It's better. Right, and then we've got some little marks. It's always good to try and get things like that in, because actually it kind of gives the pumpkin a little bit more character. Another one down here. There's a really quite dark mark down here. Just make sure we get that in. Another one there. Just reinforce a little bit the darker patches around there. Right, so that's that one. Now we're going to work on the orange pumpkin, so we'll start getting some of the shading in on that one next. So the shading on this is a bit more kind of yellow grey really, and I'm thinking we're probably going in the realms of this mixed with a little bit of our mauve. I'm wondering if this is going to be dark enough. It might not be. No, it won't be, I don't think. But we can layer over the top, so I'm not fussed. But it's all right. It's not perfect, but it will do, which is great because I'm just going to mark in where the stalk is on this one. It's got a bit of a bigger indent, so it looks like this one's got the stalk in it sunk more than the other two that are here, because there's a lot more kind of shadowing on this one. Not helped by the causing shade and shadow from this up here. So we're going to bring the line of the segment up. Remember, most of these lines will be partially curved because it is following the shape of the pumpkin itself. There's quite a lot of lines on this one. So as we're going round, the lines get slightly more rounder. Now it should lighten here as we get a bit lighter here before coming into the next shadow caused by this pumpkin here. So bring that there. And we've got a line there. And then this is quite a dark shadow, so I'll get a base in, but I'm probably going to make this a lot darker. It goes that way, and it goes off where we can't see. We'll continue with this one. Hello to everybody that is joining me today. Welcome. And welcome to the not so sunny, oh wait, hang on. No, it is sunny. Would you believe it? It is sunny in Scotland. We have sun, people. I hope you're hearing this and treasure this moment forever, although it will be recorded on YouTube. Scotland has sunshine. However, I'm a redhead. I don't do sunlight, so it means nothing to me really. It's very bright though. It's nice to see. Hopefully it'll be warming up outside because we got down to 2 degrees yesterday when we got up. So yes, it has been cold. Or at least we're going back to what is probably slightly more of a normal temperature for us. It has been unbelievably hot this summer, and the river here is very dry at the moment and it's still fairly low, so hopefully that's going to improve. Right, so we got lots of this shadow coming this way. Like I said, the stalk on the orange pumpkin is actually quite low down. It's quite sunken in. Okay, let's get on with the other one. And I'm just trying to think, it's probably going to be something similar actually. It's going to be a similar colour. So I'm going to mix a little bit of the grey with this brown pink. I don't know what to call it. It's kind of like a brown pink. It is a brown pink. Right, anyway. So there is a lot of shadow on this side. And there's this one in particular. If you just joined me, if you go right the way back towards to the start of my stream, you'll get to see the actual reference photo that I'm working from. So there's 3 pumpkins, but I'm not sure they're really at this size. Are they pumpkins or are they squashes? Anyway, this one here is kind of like a pale cream colour with what would have been orange indents for each segment, and then all this dark, really dark green speckling. It's very pretty for a pumpkin. Right, let's mark out. This one's really cool because it's got almost like a star-shaped core. In fact, it is literally a star shape. That is so cool. I hadn't even noticed that when I picked this. Yeah, it kind of does that. That's cool, like that. Right, you come down here. Where are we going with this? That goes off that way. It gets lighter as it comes round. I think what I want to do is just build that curve out so that I can build this curve a bit more. Just because it was looking a little too soft for me. Always good to exaggerate the shape. Isn't that right, ladies? Exaggerate your shape. Make the most out of it. And certainly when you're a pumpkin and you've got this many curves, you absolutely need to. Now this is going to be darker. I'm just going to put that in. So I just want this a bit darker around this edge here. Bring that curve out and bring that one as well. This one's definitely a little bit more bumpy than the other one. The other one's got softer curves, and this one's a bit more gentle. These segments on this one's actually quite evenly distributed as well, which helps. remember folks, if you've got any questions, please pop them in the comments section. I will be more than happy to answer. I am a sight impaired artist living in the Highlands, Scotland. Let's see, we want some of this. Yeah, all the shadows are on this side, so I know that. Just all around here, but we will darken that. How's that looking? That's looking a little better. Now, back to this coffee cup for a second. Yeah, we can use this, can't we? In fact, we'll just add a bit of water to this first. This might be, yeah, I thought so. A bit wet, but that's fine. And that curves around to there, like that. And then that curves around to there. It will be thinner, but I've got a lot of water on the brush, so for the minute it's going to look like that. And then when I go back in with the white, we can resolve some of that. It is darker at the bottom here in the cup inside. Like that. That's a bit better. Gives us a little bit more shading on that cup. So I drink my tea. It's probably gone cold. No, it's not quite cold. Now what I really want to do before I go too far is get the grain of wood into this and also lighten it. So I know, for example, that it is lighter on this side before we go into the shadows. So first things first is I'm going to get these shadows in. This is a perfect colour for the shadow. Do I want to do that? Actually, no, I want to do the lines first, I think. Question is, what colour should I do the lines? A nice gold colour here, but the problem with that is it's not very brown. It's a very gold colour. I could do, yeah, mix a bit of the two together. Still very dark though, but it is a bit better. Let me add a bit of water. Don't know if you guys, can you see that from there? Yeah, just. See, I think this is going to be too dark. I want to make sure it's as wet as possible before I put this down. It's a bit better. So this is just all the lines in the wood. And then we'll put the shadow in afterwards, as well as the highlights. There's a fair bit of highlighting that's going to be needed. Oh, look at that. It's classic Scottish weather. Not only is it beautiful sunshine, and you probably see that from bits and pieces coming across the table, but it's also raining. Raining and sun at the same time. Now that is classic weather. Right, so just going back over and picking up bits from how dark some of this is. It's the nice thing about this synthetic brush that I'm using is it really does act like a mop a lot of the time, and therefore it does tend to pick up a lot of the paint, which is really nice. It's also got a funny shaped tip on it. It's got like a little kick to the tip, and that allows me to do thick and thin lines when I need to. Pick out some of that paint. This stuff just keeps going. Where are we going? Up here. Oh, that's got a bit of a curve on it. Wood grain doesn't curve like that. I have to admit, this is the tedious bit, and I hate having to paint wood backgrounds for exactly this reason. I find this unbelievably dull. It's supposed to be quite relaxing, but honestly, I just want to get on. I could have just left it blank, or I could have made it a checkered tea towel like one of my other sketches, but no. No, I had to go for wood grain, didn't I? Okay, where were we? Here. I think this is probably going to end up being the longest bit of this video, so I do apologise. It's always the way. It's kind of looking a bit weird right now, but it'll make sense, don't worry. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself. And a bit of water. That's a bit better. Slightly darker browner colour. we're getting there slowly, almost at the end of the wood grain. Hopefully you guys have all got glorious weather at the moment. I suspect the sunshine that we're having here is just a freak accident and we'll go back to normal and be our classic, rather dreek way. And I do apologise if I use any Scottish words at all that you guys don't know. Please just say, "Hey Ginger, I don't know what that word is that you've just said." You're speaking Scottish again. I think I spent a lot of time saying "we." Little, you know, it's a wee pumpkin. I think that confused a few people yesterday, so I had to explain. Right, that is a bit better. I'm going to use a little bit of just water on the brush just to soften this edge ever so slightly. Somehow you've escaped that way and I don't know how. Actually, we'll just use you to kind of tint the shadow here. Like that. There's no shine on this cup. I think it's because the coffee is a little bit further down, so you don't really see it as much. Right, what you want to do is just pick up some of this brown and just sort out these stems. This one's got like a weird triangle bit in the middle. I'm assuming that was hollow. They tend to be hollow though, don't they? The stalks for pumpkins tend to be a bit more hollow than some of the other vegetables. I need to bring you out a little bit more, like that. And then this is our star-shaped one. Be careful with this one because actually it's mostly cream and you can barely see the stalk because it blends in with the dark green. Kind of like that. This one's a little easier. It's got like a little sticky bit up it there. It kind of goes that way. And then like a half crescent here. Coming around like that. I wonder if every pumpkin, its kind of coloration and spot variation, is it unique? Like a fingerprint? That'd be cool to know, wouldn't it? Right. We are going to go back and just start getting a little bit more of this down. Remember, this is a sketch, so it's not looking to be perfect, it's just looking to be fun and just get something down. The plan is, not plan is because I've already done it, I am doing these sketches so that I can do slightly bigger pieces with pastel, and they are 10" by 10". So yes, they are square, which is a different format to what I'm painting the sketches in. Don't ask. The idea of that is it allows me to focus on like a unique section of this painting. So I'm not really sure where I would do my 10", maybe there. So I just clip the coffee cup and just clip the top corner of that pumpkin, so that I have the dark brown and the orange contrast with the two paler pumpkins in between. I think that might work really well actually. I haven't decided which one of these sketches yet is my next 10 by 10, but I plan on doing one for each of them anyway, so, but it's just time as usual. These things take time. And why do we get squashes this colour? Pumpkins and squashes this colour? Does it lose pigment and therefore it doesn't go orange? Should it have been orange? Or is it actually genetically always this colour and actually the orange ones are not correct? I know that can be the same for certain carrots as well. Right, just bring this down. It just mixes with that shadow section nicely. The same here. The same here on this side. We'll be darkening that side specifically. So let's have a look at what we're going to do with that one. It's picking up a little bit of the orange. So do I want to maybe add a little orange? A little orange. Just some grey. To create a bit more of a shadow on this one, at the base here. Yeah, that's a bit better. Just that little hint of orange in that grey, where it's picking up light reflected off the orange pumpkin. There'll be some here as well where it's darker. I'll put that in there while I've got it. Where else? Oh yeah, it was darker on this corner, this side as well for some reason. I don't know if there's something else that we can't see that's maybe making this side of this pumpkin darker. But it is, so we are. Anywhere else? Not really. It's still quite a really light coloured pumpkin, so we want to try and keep that lightness going. It's got some slightly unusual colour marking going on with these little circles. So I'm just going to add that in. like a weird kind of bright yellowy orange. So we're going to pop that in there, and in the other, with the other one just there, and maybe add some of that in to the stalk. It's usually where you end up seeing these things. We may make the edge of the pumpkin darker yet for the shadow, but we'll need to work on the rest of this lot yet. So we've got two colours going on here. We've got a kind of peachy colour where the light's hitting it, and it's quite pale, which is weird. What I found with the Himi gouache is that the paler colours, so the yellows, the peaches and things like that, tend to be more transparent, and I think that's because they're making colours as a tint, and that they're using a subpar white, which doesn't help in the realm of things. I'm not sure that's going to be orange enough. Let's see. Oh, then again, that might work. So we'll just catch that bit there. We can't see a lot of this pumpkin, it's off to the side. And then this continues on this side. I'm just going to bring that colour in. And it comes that way. This one, like that one's got a lot of this really dark green patterning, which is going to look really good. So we want to do some of that. First though, we want to get this lighter colour done. Is there anywhere else? It does go a little bit further this way, so I'm just going to add some more there and to there, like that. And then while I've got this colour, it's very similar to the colour on this one where the stripes are, so where each segment comes down, it's got these orange sections either side of the segment stripe. So we'll put that in. It's quite pale. I'm being absolutely blinded by this sunlight now, which is not helping me. It's quite a big bit there. It is a lot paler on this side for some reason. Like that. How are we looking? Right, okay. So, this is this is the black. I want some black and brown mixed together, just to reinforce our nice coffee. I really want that lovely, luscious dark colour that just really helps provide that contrast. And it's just slightly lighter as it comes into this corner, so that's what we want. Like that. Hopefully that won't dry too light and it'll stay. And we want to get this dark green down because it's really bugging me. So, which one of these do I want to use is the question. It's not really a moss green, although it is more of a moss green on that one. So let's use the moss green on the orange one first. And in fact, actually, I'm going to do that on both. Some of the spotting is this colour first and then the darker colour on top. So that's what we'll do. So we're using this colour here. I'm just loading it with a lot of water just to help start breaking the dry block down. And also I want it a little bit transparent, so kind of like watercolour, because a lot of this with the spotting on these, you do actually see some of the pumpkin colour underneath, which is really cool. Right, let's see. So they all come in lines, kind of coming down. It's like a kind of weird triangle bit there. There isn't much on this upper side. I'm assuming they just don't grow even when they decide that they want spots. And I'm assuming these colour pattern pigment issues are perfectly healthy for these, and that actually it is literally just some sort of colour pigmentation that happens depending on the ground pH and stuff like that. How's that looking? That's looking a little better. And my green. Start working this way. Yeah, as we work this way, it kind of comes up higher until on this side it actually is all along the edge as well. It goes all the way around. Some bits right at the bottom, but not many. So this is where we start to see it kind of creeping onto the edge here. Yeah, pretty much all the way around these edges, so that's what I'm going to do. Just follow those edges round and work up and over. Add some more. Remember to try and keep brush strokes in the same direction as where we want the curve to be, because that really helps. How much is down there? Quite a bit actually. Okay, now we're going to do the same but on the other cream coloured pumpkin. Make sure I add a bit more water to the block. And then just mix that. Right, so yeah, these have got really big blocks of green where every single one of the segment lines come up. There's going to be a lot of dabbing here. So it comes like that, in like that, and the same on pretty much every single one. Which is kind of cool, but at the same time, absolute pain in the butt. So we're going to keep going down. And then where's the next line? That's the next line there. Remember, if you're using water-based gouache like this, you want to make sure that when you put a colour down, that you are not going to keep touching it, because it's water reactable, so it will reactivate with water and it will lift what you've done, unfortunately. So you have to be very careful. There is a fair bit of green all the way down this, so we'll just put that in as we go. Another line here. This one's more of a line, so a bigger chunk of that, and then round to that one, because we have another one there. Two very short, small segments, I think. We'll get some more paint, load the brush. And now, where are we going with this one? This way. Just adding touches of green to the stalk in the middle there. It just helps keep it in line with everything else. That one there is a little bit more open. I'm just going to make sure I get that. And then this one. So there is gaps between them, especially the bigger segments have got a gap between them with the green. Not so at the bottom though. Where are we? There. Lovely. Right, let's work out. Has this got dots going up? Pretty much every section has got kind of just random lines and dots. So we'll just put them in. Not really thinking about it, just putting them in wherever it feels natural. If I tried to spend all day copying what was in the reference photo, we'd be here for months. And I'm pretty sure you guys, as well as myself, has got things to be doing. I need to prep dinner, for example, and put some washing on, and kind of remember that I'm also supposed to be domesticated and actually do some things that isn't just art. My excuse being, well, if I put the washing machine on, it says 1 hour 38, so surely then I can paint for 1 hour 38 minutes. That's my reasoning anyway. I'm not sure if that works though. Right, I'm going to grab a little bit of the brown in with this green so that I can go over where it's really quite dark, because you can see as the green dries it gets lighter. So these are the sections where it's a little darker as it comes up, and also around there, but I'm going to need a bit more paint for that. Give me a brown. This just helps adding texture, coloured texture to what we're doing. And bear in mind that here, this is where we've got our more immediate shadows anyway. So we're just going to mix that in with the green on this side. And I'll wash that out with a bit of water just to blend that in a little better. And then, yeah, it's darker in the top sections here. And where else is it darker? Ever so slightly at this end. That's a bit better. I'm just going to darken this as well. Add water to the brush. And I'm just going to darken this here. There's not a lot of paint. It looks a lot darker than it is. And when it dries, you'll see what I mean. Is there's a lot of water in this that I've just put down. It's more to do with just getting some of that shadow in. And the brown's a really good one for that because it's quite a soft colour. I'm going to clean my brush, and then with it wet but no colour on it, I'm going to start taking out some of this darker shadow. When I do that, because it's wet and it's activated the colour underneath, it blends a lot better. Just exaggerate some of the shadowing around the stem here. Again, clean the brush. And just allow that to blend with what's already down. And the same on here. So this is in shadow on this side, remember? So this will be darker. And the same here. And this is just adding water and allowing the shadowy sections to kind of just spread. As it comes around, there's a little bit more shadow on this side. Bear in mind it's got some shadowing from the pale pumpkin at the top. And we're just blending that out so we can make a better colour match. It's a really good way of getting a nice shadow that's close to what we're doing with the undercolours, because what you don't want to do is put a shadow down that's specifically a particular colour. You want it to be able to pick up the colours underneath, and that's what's really nice about these sort of gouache colours, is that you can do that without too many issues. So I've just got this wet brush, I can bring that shadow up, and as I bring it up it's mixing with the white, and it just keeps softening it as it goes around. In fact, I could do with a little bit of it there. Now I need to put some lighter colour on these stalks. We know we've got a lighter bit there. It's going to mingle with the wet brown, but that's fine. And then here. And is there a lighter bit? Yeah, there is. On this one, there's a bit there. And little bits here and there. So that will just mix with those. And now what we want to do is, I want to lighten the areas that on the background, so on this wood, I'm going to wash this out with where the light is, and we know that it is across here. So I'm just painting this directly on top. Remember, it will blend with that, and I want that. It will first of all help take down some of these lines, so they won't look so obvious. I'm just looking for where, so the cup shadow is coming that way. But yeah, this helps just blend those lines out and doesn't make the lines a little too harsh. So, and then yeah, up here as well. So we come round the top of the cup there, and then that way. Remember, this is the lighter bit, not the darker bit. You'll see what I mean when I put the darker colour down. And again, we've got light over here. Let me just bring that down. Make sure we're touching it against that pumpkin. And we haven't put any highlights, proper highlights on the pumpkins yet. That will be next. This light comes all the way down and round into here. So that's softening our wood effect. And now we will add the highlights. So I want to just make sure I've got some proper white on there. I don't want this too white, so I will be blending it out, because otherwise it's going to look a little weird. But our whitest sections, our palest sections, are here. It comes up the middle, the same here, up the middle, bit on that side, and a little bit on that side. And again, it's just where it's catching bits and pieces. And yes, I don't know if you just saw it there, I just put the paintbrush in the tea. I knew that would happen eventually. Oh dear. It's a good thing these are non-toxic. Always work with children's paints, people, because that way it doesn't matter if you put your paintbrush in your cup of tea. Right, and we've got some little highlights on this section here as well. It's not so much like plonking down some white, it's just making sure that that section's slightly lighter. So you can see that that is where light is catching it rather than anything else. Not quite so for this one because it's so much in the dark from being close to that. Right, we want, where is my blue? We're using a blue-grey for the shadow for the cup, mixed with a tiny amount of the yellow. And a bit of water. And then this will give us our shadow. I'm watering this out, so don't panic. As you will see. So I put this down, and then what I do is I take a lot of it away again. Which sounds silly, but it'll stain it. Right, dry the brush off, and then we start lifting this ever so slightly off. You'll see the wood, you can see the wood lines underneath here. And that goes that way, and that goes that way. Now what I want to do is soften these edges ever so slightly. There's one. This is just water. Now we're going to put the white back on the cup, which is one of the last things I wanted to do because I didn't really want to make this too messy, and obviously the white is such a strong colour that the last thing you want to do is make that really too bright versus everything else. It's got quite a thick rim, this cup. we've got this here, and this is where our handle is, and that kind of comes down and curves, and then that comes this way. And then we've got another lighter section there. And yes, the cup is not perfect, but with my eyesight it's a little difficult to kind of make circles like that. It's a real pain in the butt, but it's not too bad. Kind of does the job. Right, that is all I'm going to be doing for today on this one. Just a nice basic sketch painting to kind of map out where I want to go with this. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed hanging out with me this lunchtime, although it's now 3:30, so I suppose it's gone lunchtime. And I now need to go do some washing and put dinner on. Otherwise the husband's going to come home and there's no food and he needs to go to rehearsal. So I will see you all soon. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, this live will be up in a day or so, and you guys can add any questions and comments to the video once it goes back up. Otherwise, I will see you all soon, or check out the rest of my videos on my channel. Ta-ta for now. Bye peeps.